Hi, I'm Dr. Philip McMillan, and thank you for joining me today. And today I'm a little bit more focused on politics rather than clinical medicine. And it's not because it's my area of interest, but it's something that I think is important. And so, what I'm doing today is I'm sharing with you an important message that came from someone by the name of Rob Roos. He is actually part of the European Parliament. An MEP in the Parliament. And he is technically the vice president of the executive board. He is a vice chair in the European Conservatives and Reformists group. And as I said, he's also a member of the European Parliament. And I think his background in the context of prior to this was in telecoms. And he just happens to have a view on this WHO pandemic treaty. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because if there is one thing the pandemic has taught us is that we need to be well educated about the decisions that are being made. It has not helped people to not be educated about science and politics as it happens around them. And so, within that context, I'm going to share this very short video. I apologize for the sizing, but it will get the point across as to what he is saying. And I'll balance it by sharing what the House of Commons is saying in the UK with regards to the benefits of this pandemic treaty. So, this is just about education. And so, let's get started and hear what he has to say.
When I say pandemic, you're likely to scroll past. Everyone is tired of COVID, rightfully so. But please take a moment to keep watching. A new global pandemic treaty is in the works. The intention is for countries to respond in the same way during a future pandemic, more so than during the COVID-19 pandemic. There are three reasons why we should not desire this.
At this point, I'll pause here because this is where the first part of the discussion comes in, is that he is now going to delineate his reasons for why he thinks this pandemic treaty is a bit of a problem. This is for you to reflect on and to decide whether or not you want to do anything about the information. So let's hear his first point.
Reason one, who will manage the pandemic treaty? It is the World Organization, abbreviated as WHO. That may sound like a neutral government agency, but it is not. The WHO is heavily influenced by countries like China, as well as by the pharmaceutical industry. These are global players with tremendous geopolitical and financial interests. And who pays the piper calls the tune. Those interests don't always align with the interests of your country and its people. Now, the WHO wants to gain more authority through the pandemic treaty, while various other interests take precedence at the WHO. This is not good for our countries.
Again, that's an important point, and he's technically saying who pays the piper has the influence. So then the question I ask myself, being not an expert, is who is actually paying the piper, so to speak? And so what I did is I went back to the WHO and I looked at really who are the contributors to the World Health Organization. And you can see here that the voluntary contributors, United States of America, has 982 million. In second place is Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations of 801. When we look through the top 10 here, in terms of countries, it's USA, Germany, European Commission, Canada, and the United Kingdom. The Rotary International has 148 million, as does the World Bank 112 million. And sometimes the issue is not necessarily about who is contributing, but what influence do they have on decisions of the organization? As he said, who pays the piper calls the tune. When we look at some of the other contributors, they in terms of who is going forward, the projected funding for the WHO, and this is from the WHO's website, you can see here at the top here is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And this is for specific programs that I suspect. This is not just about WHO funding overall. But when we look again at the top six, only European Commission, Germany are in there. Everything else is non-governmental. And again, this raises a question of probity. Now, their intentions may be perfectly good, but as he points out, who pays the piper calls the tune. Let's hear a little bit more about what he's saying.
Reason 2. The WHO is not democratically elected. Those who make decisions cannot be held accountable. This is a very bad idea. In a democracy, policymakers should be democratically elected and be held accountable accordingly. If we now commit ourselves to this new pandemic treaty, power will be further removed from the citizens. This is detrimental to national sovereignty and democracy.
That was his second point, and it is a reasonable point with regards to the impact that this can have with regards to different countries and their sovereignty. And this is why many people are concerned about it. And so, what I'll share with you quickly here, again, in terms of balance, this has come from the UK House of Commons. And this here is looking at what is the proposed WHO Pandemic Preparedness Treaty. This was updated just on the 2nd of June 2023, so this is relatively recent. And the main points they are saying is that here they are looking at the definition, means, and procedure for declaring a pandemic and what this actually means in practice, how it would work alongside other international health regulations, how to achieve equity in global chain supplies, strengthening resilience and responsiveness. These are all very good things. But as usual, things come with a cost. And it is important to be well educated about what this means. And that's the reason why I'm putting in front of you what appears to be two sides of the argument. And it is incumbent on everyone to then do their due diligence and their research. Let's hear his final point.
Reason 3. The best approach during a pandemic is not the same everywhere. Consider culture for example, but also consider population density or how the balance between risk and freedom is preserved. It's not the same everywhere, therefore we should not implement the same policies everywhere. In summary, the new Global Pandemic Treaty gives way too much power to the WHO. Firstly, it primarily serves the interests of countries like China and pharmaceutical giants. Secondly, we are giving away power to an organization that cannot be democratically controlled. Thirdly, the best approach to a pandemic is not the same everywhere. So we should really not support this pandemic treaty. If you share my concern, send an email with this video to the politicians in your country. And if you find this video informative, then please share it.
Really good points. And again, this is just about education, sharing the perspective of different people. And that's what we have learned in the pandemic. Always be open to discussion and debate. It doesn't mean one side is right or wrong, but what we must do is always reflect on the science, reflect on the decisions, and make sure that we are participating in decisions that are relevant to our lives and our health. That's probably the most valuable lesson that should have come out of the pandemic. I hope you all find this valuable and read the information that I have shared. Have a great evening.